On this picturesque block, in this manicured home, something evil, something terrifying, something horrifying is haunting Lionel. His mother.
I thought I told you to spray this house. The place is infested with vermin.
Although she was a little strict,
Look at this dust. It's an inch thick.
he never wished her any harm.
You look after me like that.
Until
Your mother's dead, Lionel.
now, whatever Mom's got
Who's your mother?
has caught on with the neighbors.
She's been bitten. You know what that means?
You can pray.
I kick ass for the Lord.
You can plead. You can beg for mercy.
Help! Someone! Please!
But nothing you can do will stop.
There's thousands of them!
Because how do you kill something that's already dead? Trimark Pictures presents a modern masterpiece of horror.
Your mother ate my dog!
Dead Alive.
Party's over.
Welcome everybody to the Cast from the Coast. My name is Adam Miles and I'm joined as always by Tim Johnson, Josh Lambert, and we welcome back once again our amazing guests, Aaron Peerless and Jamie Peerless.
Yay!
We love you two so much, we need this to be a regular thing. So at one point, I suspect that we won't even be saying guests. It'll just be, here you are!
Woo!
Cool.
I like the sounds of that.
I think we all like the sound of that. So excellent. How is everybody tonight?
Wonderful.
Meh. No, I'm good. I'm good.
Fucking Tim.
Fucking naysayer!
Debbie
Fuck
Downer.
this show and fuck this place. And...
That's okay. I got two replacements for you right there. Oh,
Oof.
Hey, if anybody could do it, it'd be them.
he's so gracious about this. Okay, perfect.
I gotta see Aaron's chops for roasting Adam before we make any calls on that.
You know what? Adam's told me some of the stuff that Aaron has said. No, if I were to step down and, Aaron got this. He got this.
It would be in good hands, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll go with that. So I definitely have some stories. So that's okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, tonight we have a very amazing movie that it has saddened me that it's taken us this long to actually talk about. But when we started talking about doing this movie, we all got excited, and hence we have lots of people involved tonight. So, Tim, please tell everybody what we're talking about and give us a synopsis, please.
Oh, I can't fucking wait for this. How do you fucking sum this movie up?
Oh no. Well, okay. So you gotta do it. You just gotta do it. You can't.
Don't read anything. I want you to give this from the heart. I want you to sum this fucking movie up because I couldn't do it in a fucking paragraph and a half.
No, you can do it. It can be done. We're talking about Brain Dead, Dead Alive. For some reason, it has two movies, and it was called something different in the U.S. I don't know why. I've known this movie as one, and then I remember talking to a friend of mine a long time ago, and they're like, "Yeah, did you ever see this horror movie?" and he kept calling it this other name, and I'm like, but that sounds like it was weird. Anyways, okay. 1992, Brain Dead. Dead Alive. What would you guys? What do you guys want to call it? Like, how do you guys? What do you guys?
Dead
call
Alive is what I've always.
Dead Alive.
Me too.
Right.
Dead Alive.
To be clear about this, I think that the name Dead Alive is the Americanized name, and that was because of the fact that we actually have another movie that was a U.S. produced horror around the same time called Brain Dead.
So again, this was my first viewing of this film, but I've seen the cover for this film like 1,000 times.
Oh, it's
I
iconic.
never knew what it was.
I have this as one of my profile pictures from like Halloween every year. It's like the picture of her opening up her mouth, and it's like me smiling inside. It's hilarious.
Can you please send me that?
I will send you
I
that.
want that as my background for my phone.
I will send you a copy, Tim.
Okay, so synopsis. In New Zealand's peaceful town of Wellington, Lionel Cosgrove, an oppressed bachelor who is still living with his mother, Vera, who I love, has finally found his soulmate, a kind grocery store clerk, Ikita. However, long before things take a turn for the worst in Lionel's already messed up world, Skull Island's vicious Sumerian rat monkey bites Vera after a visit to the local zoo. Now Vera's got a bite, and the infection is rapidly turning her into a pus-squirting, flesh-eating, living dead. And in a volatile situation is bound to get out of hand. I missed my spot. I got too excited. As the ever-growing collection of dead bodies and other stimulant-enhanced zombie misfits start to claim Lionel's basement. Poor Lionel. Whether you like it or not, you need a man to clean up the mess. Moreover, summon up the courage to confront the decomposing zombies and the family's ugly secret. Nevertheless, Lionel has what it takes to save the day. And get the girl? Who knows?
Who knows? Nice.
Who knows?
So, right off the bat, Josh hit the nail on the head earlier when he said, how the fuck do you really summarize this movie up in a paragraph and a half or less? You
Did
can't.
I not just do that?
No, that was multiple paragraphs.
Not even that. That doesn't accurately describe what I was about to watch. If someone explained that to me and I sat down and watched this, I'd be like, "Did you watch the same fucking movie?"
Yeah, you sugar-coated it, Tim.
I don't even think they're zombies.
Shut up, guys.
They're
Shut up.
fucking mutated. They got the pus dripping right. Fucking weird effects going on in this movie, man. Like the team was fucking busy.
I think it's the soup scene, man, that really
Kills me.
Pus goes into the soup and he's
And then the custard.
yeah, the custard. That's right. That's what it is. Yeah.
Oh,
So gross.
I think I don't know why I cringe at that, but that's just ugh.
I definitely did.
The part that I cringe at every time, and it's like, I think in the whole totality of the movie is by far the tamest, is the part where he's gluing the cheek back up.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but maybe because it's such a clean triangle and it's flapping and he's got that old like fucking school.
Old filler is gonna be on crooked.
Yeah, fuck it. That part gets me every time I leave.
Oh, man. So, the movie itself starts off with what I thought was absolutely brilliant, which was the scene where they're actually finding, running away with the Sumerian rat monkey. And from what was obviously already stated, Skull Island. You know, it's kind of funny that he tried to kind of mix some of the universes there, and he brought in the whole King Kong scenario. And then later on, he went on to actually direct the remake of King Kong. That ironicy right there, you know what I mean? So
he just understood the horror verse before anyone else.
Oh,
it's all connected.
He absolutely did. This movie is bug fucking nuts insane, just like his other movies, like Meet the Feebles. Which, Josh, have you ever seen Meet the Feebles?
No.
I don't know if we'll ever do an episode on Meet the Feebles, but anybody who's watching needs to watch Meet the Feebles because it's like the Muppets.
Jesus Christ.
If hearing you say Meet the Feebles.
If the Muppets were like crack dealing mobsters.
Huh?
Hey. Yeah, the world of Peter Jackson. It's
right.
all there is to it. So Okay. So the Sumerian rat monkey comes from Skull Island and ends up in the Wellington, New Zealand Zoo. So it takes place in Greater Wellington. And obviously, there's a blossoming romance between, Bagheeta and... Jeez. Poor guy. Poor
Lionel.
Bagheeta.
And Lionel.
And so the movie really starts to hit its stride as soon as Mother Dearest, who is an absolute batshit crazy person herself, everything's about her.
I loved her.
I get Psycho vibes, man, from the whole opening of this.
True, accurate.
Yeah,
I see that.
Yeah, she's definitely an overbearing bitch. She gets bitten. And in one of the first extremely weird fucking sequences in the movie, she murders the fucking Sumerian rat monkey by stepping on it and bursting its head and shit. And it was just...
That's the moment I knew what the fuck is happening right now. I wasn't fully prepared, but it was at that moment I was like, man, what the fuck am I watching?
You know what?
This old lady just squished his head.
I want to see some more claymation these days.
Right?
Other crap. Claymation's where it's at.
Yeah.
Love that shit.
There's some classic shit right there.
Yeah, look at all the Sinbads and stuff.
So, the Harry Rayhausen, Ray Harryhausen.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Harryhausen stuff. I love all that stuff, right? That's great stuff. But this was nowhere near that good. But it was still great.
Yeah.
There's something so unsettling about it too.
I think they should have had more shots in between, more frames.
I was hoping the monkey was going to come back. He was my best part.
Where'd
the little monkey go?
Well,
Where'd that little monkey go?
The nice thing is he built it so that technically there could have been sequels. You know what I mean? Like, who's to say somebody else didn't find a rat monkey?
There's a whole bunch of these little rat monkeys on the island.
And obviously the Islanders all knew about the effects of whatever the fuck was going on, so there could have been an entire sequel that was based on the island.
Yeah.
You can't tell me that one of those people that got bit in that house...
Isn't there a whole bunch of movies based on the island? King Kong?
Touche. You were saying there...
Godzilla too?
What were you saying there, Aaron?
Something about the people.
Yeah, well, I mean, if everybody's if they're at this house party, everybody's getting whacked out of it, and then everybody gets bit. Yeah, one of them's got to escape because these zombies, you can't just cut their head off and they're gonna die. These ones are like you got to mulch them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. That's what you got to do. You got to just liquefy them and just whatever.
They weren't the sharpest tools in the shed. Like they went to the lawnmower like a moth to the flame.
Yeah.
They were very deadite. The only way to kill them was complete and total dismemberment.
Yeah, and even then there were scenes where it was like the disembodied half head that was like rolling around on the ground, like smiling at people.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like you can't just sever or kill the brain. The thing's just going to keep going. So you got to mulch this thing, right? That's the only way to get rid of this stuff.
Even then, the intestines form their own beast.
And fall in love?
He's my favorite character. The whole film.
The talking colon.
Yeah, the talking colon. Originally, that guy lets off a lot of hot air.
That's fucking insane. Fucking insane. Who knew that a bunch of intestines and internal organs would be like a prime character in a fucking movie? Like, what? Peter Jackson knew.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's
right. That's right. So the movie basically it's great because the whole kicker with the story when it really decides to go off the rails from being just a standard romance comedy movie and it goes into full horror mode is when his mother dies but comes back from the grave and bites people and more people start turning into zombies and there's just all out zombification and he's trying to hide it because he doesn't know how to take care of the situation. He just knows that he can inject them with like tranquilizer and basically get them to chill the fuck out. That's really what it is. So we do have movies like Lucio Fulci's Zombie that is infamous for having the shark versus zombie scene. This movie is also infamous for having zombie sex, zombie babies, right? And to date, is still regarded as one of the bloodiest movies ever made, based on actual amounts of blood spilled on camera and used on set.
It's part of the trivia.
Trivia time with Tim later on.
Yeah.
Is this the movie that It supposedly broke when they said they were the bloodiest movie?
Yes. This is the movie that It claimed to have broke the record for.
It doesn't even come close.
No.
It doesn't count if you just fill a pool with blood. That doesn't count.
No.
Yeah.
You have to be spilling that thing, splashing it, squirt.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole... Yeah.
That's why I considered Evil Dead 2013 to be, a contender in comparison, because it was raining blood.
It's raining blood.
Yeah.
And it was fucking everywhere.
Yeah.
All right. But as story progresses, we get introduced to some very intensely and amazingly written characters, which is one thing that Peter Jackson is really good at. So, I mean, we can beat on the story a little bit, but let's talk about the characters and how the movie actually progresses with these characters. So, Lionel.
I have never identified with a character in a movie as much as I identify with how Lionel takes care of fucking, like, madness. Like,
takes care of madness?
Just boot it in the basement or fucking sweep it under the rug and then try to balance it. And then, like the whole time I was like, I totally get this guy. And then I found out that Lionel's played by a guy named Timothy. So I was like, it's fucking fate.
So if your neighbor turned out to be a zombie, you just like keep them in the house and like bring them steaks and slide it under the door, or what?
Yep.
Stick the tranquilizer up the nose.
It's like you go over here. Reflection. Like, I can't deal with this right now.
I can't. But as long as you don't hurt anybody, I just can't deal with you. Stay there. Tim's got people locked up in the basement of his apartment right now.
I think so.
I'm just gonna say.
We learned a lot about Tim today.
Did you though?
Oh man. Yes. So we got Lionel, who's the bumbling do-gooder who's just trying to get on with life, and
he's our Ash. He starts out a little goofy, kind of lame, but by the end of the movie, he's hacking up zombies.
Yeah.
He's put in that situation. So then we also have the little Latina cutie Buggy De Ikita. So the character whose name everybody loves to say in this movie. It's like,
yeah.
It's like whenever somebody hears her name in the movie, they're always like, Bagita.
We're doing it right now. We can't help but say it.
Exactly.
So she lives with her grandparents, who are like, she's got like the psychic abilities, and she's reading the tarot cards, and she says that she's going to be, falling in love with a man who's surrounded by death. Wink, wink. Foreshadowing is at its absolute fucking most simplistic nature.
Is that even foreshadowing at that point?
I know. He just basically just came out and said it.
Yeah.
He's surrounded by death. Zombies in the fucking house. Okay. But she's an interesting character because there's they play it really well that there's a language barrier still. And not only is there a language barrier, but she's Latino, and he's fucking New Zealand. Which there's a language barrier with English and New Zealand English to begin with. Then you throw in Latin, and it's just a fucking different situation entirely.
I kind of got like a traveling circus, like gypsy type vibe from them.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And so they run the store, and fun characters. But let's talk about the mom too, because the mom is, like, in my opinion, as much of a bullshit character as she is, she's one of the best fucking characters, because she really pushes the story in the proper direction. Because
Tim loves, like, you got to elaborate, Tim, because
why do you love
about her earlier
so much?
Okay, so
you relate to Lionel, but this mom character, like,
I liked her because she started off as like this, like, I'm the leader of the house, and Lionel is, even though it's her son, she treats him like a servant, right? So and like, you know, she's gonna be, you know, inducted into this fucking elite group, and the people are coming over to meet and all this kind of stuff. But once she turns into a zombie, she's fucking awesome. Like, like when she was a zombie, like I loved when she was on the screen. Like this actress, she went from one place and ended up somewhere else, and like I don't know, I like the zombie mom.
Her final form was so much like Henrietta.
Yep.
I feel like
maybe that's
Sam Raimi should have been credited in this movie.
Maybe that's right, because I love Henrietta.
Yeah.
I love Henrietta.
It's like Henrietta, but like 10 times the size and a little bit more anatomically correct.
Yeah. That's true, Adam.
It's true. Oh man. Yeah, I'll never forget the first time I ever seen this. Like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah, but I thought it wasn't going to get any worse than that until the belly opened up.
Yeah.
There's no great action there.
But I love when the mother's introduced, her absolute fucking hoity-toity attitude towards everything. She's being inducted into the WLWL, and she's like, "Look at the fucking dust here," and he's like, "But I just dusted," and she's like, "Do it again." Does that look like a lawn that's been fucking kept? And he's like, "I just fucking mowed it."
See, I don't think that she was actually worried about any of that. She was just trying to keep him home away from the grocery girl.
Yeah. Really possessive, yeah.
Yeah, very possessive, but just absolute bitch nature behind it, which was amazing, right? And really well done. And then what the worst part is, I remember going to the IMDb page afterwards and looking at a picture of her, and the actress herself in her picture on IMDb is smiling, and she looks like a very pleasant fucking person. But
nice lady, yep.
She looks like a nice lady. But I'm just like, I can't fucking picture it in this movie, but this is somebody's grandmother. It's like, she's an asshole.
It's the close-up camera angles too, with the kind of the fisheye lens, you know.
Yeah.
It's just zooms right up, and you can see every little hair, and I'm like, yeah, right. It's like, and they do it. I was going to try and count, but I was enjoying the movie so much, I just lost count, right? But I'm telling you, like, if I could have counted, I bet you it does it about 30, 40 times. It's like, or it has that zoom in, that real fast pan in, right?
So, as an effects artist watching this movie, how much PTSD did you get? Because these guys must have been fucking balls to the wall all fucking day. Like, I'm betting that these effects guys had way more work than anyone else on the entire set.
100%.
You know what? It's been and I love this movie so much. It's been so long since I saw it, and I'm like, we got to rewatch this. So we're watching it, and I'm watching, like, you know, the head getting cut off at the beginning. You're like, okay, right on.
Right.
You know, and then it gets
some good effects.
I'm like, holy shit. Oh my
Just
god.
the sheer amount of it.
Right. And then
my fucking mind.
Just into this, just blood and guts and pieces and intestines crawling around, and, you know, like, just nuts. I'm like, I tried to Google how much it would have cost for just the effects in that, and the blood and everything. Like, I don't even know. It had a budget of $3 million.
And $2.5 million on blood and guts.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, it must have been. It was nuts. I've never seen a movie that did that many effects back to back to back to back to back. Even Evil Dead 2 in this heyday with Sam Raimi with unlimited funds, what it seems, didn't do that. No. It's like they took what Sam Raimi did in Evil Dead 2, like keep the blood running, and he just turned the dial all the way up.
Right.
They turned it up to 11.
Oh, nuts. He broke the dial right off.
That dial definitely went beyond the...
It was to the point, like, I'm a blood and guts guy. I love the cheesy movies with the guts flying at you. And I was like overwhelmed. I was like, okay, more guts. Yeah. It was like, it almost desensitized me. It was like, it was so much effects. Like, I couldn't even enjoy them.
I know, faces being torn off and a body being thrown against the wall and the lighting up from behind. Like,
it's like 3 movies worth of effects just crammed into an hour and a half.
Yeah. All I can just say, this is all I can do.
Right?
Right? Like, that was...
I
love that movie so much, right? It's just unbelievable. Unbelievable the amount of effects in there, right? You got to wonder, like, Are those guys heading up Weta and stuff now over there? Weta Workshop or whatever?
Oh,
Like,
probably some of them.
One of the guys is the head of Weta.
oh, okay. So they basically, I bet you they got a name off that movie right there for all those.
I would think.
Yeah.
Anyone looking for effects work and sees that and sees what someone can do and doesn't immediately take them.
No, well, I remember when I watched it, all these names, and like all these are the same people that worked on Lord of the Rings, like Richard Taylor, who's in charge of Weta, worked on this. So,
yeah.
So moving on to one of my favorite characters, who ends up being a zombie, and that's when he really kind of breaks in as a main character, the priest.
yeah.
I'm just gonna mention this.
That guy.
When I
What was he saying?
What was the tagline?
I kick ass for the Lord. Stand back, sir. It's time for some divine intervention.
This guy is like kung fu happy. This guy's a ninja.
Yeah.
But it was brilliant.
I never picked him out to be a ninja when I first saw him on screen.
You know who it reminded me of? You ever watch King of the Hill, and like the show with the priest that's like a secret agent, and he's like roundhouse kicking people and stuff.
Oh man.
Exactly.
Oh, it was crazy. But no, I love this character. So the first time I ever saw this movie, this was one of those movies that came a little bit later in my life when I seen it too. I was a teenager by the time I saw this one. And that priest character stood out, period, to me. Because I remember watching the movie just smiling up to this point. But then the priest comes out and his whole divine intervention and I kick ass for the Lord. And it was actually like really good looking fight scenes too, where he's kicking the shit out of them. I was like, they really did a good job on this. And then all of a sudden he fucking bites it. And he gets killed by the zombies and turns into one of the zombie characters for the rest of the movie. It's like, okay, it's a good way to kind of introduce a character, was just have him be a badass and then fail.
But they did him a solid. I mean, he was in there for quite a while. One of my favorite scenes is that supper table scene with the zombies, man.
Yeah.
Where they're banging? Crazy.
Oh, with the tranquilizers in them, and the pieces of face are falling off, and
The
they're
head
just
comes back.
Yeah.
Down
he's
the
gonna shove the, like. Oh man, I love that stuff. I love that whole scene.
It was
I laugh
cheesy, but
every time.
awesome.
And it's brilliant too, because another despicable character shows up, the uncle, who's just in it basically for the fucking money in the house, and he's trying to blackmail him and shit. I love it because he comes in and Lionel goes out to see him, and the two zombies start banging in the back room, and he's like, "You're watching one of your dad's dirty flicks, aren't you? You found your father's porn stash."
What did he say? The one with the nurse and the
donkey
Doberman or something?
The donkey.
The donkey, yeah.
With the nurse and the donkey. And when he comes back into the room, they're going at it, and she's got like the priest's mouth. She's biting his mouth off, and he like pulls them apart, and all of a sudden the effects entirely change again for the character.
Right? Yeah, completely.
Like, it's one thing to have, and Aaron, just, this, doing effects work, it's one thing to have a hero makeup and then halfway through the damn movie change the hero makeup yet again.
Right. That's a lot of work. That's why I'm saying, like, the budget of this thing it had to be nuts. And if there was an effects group that was willing to kind of break even or something to get their name out there, if they did that, they definitely got their name out there, and that's Weta for you, right? So I don't know. It would have been one of those things where a film would have to pay for the material at least.
Even if you were going dirt cheap with fucking corn syrup and canned corn all day long, you'd still cost a fortune doing this.
Yeah. And if you bought if you just didn't have time to make it or whatever, and you had to buy the big, the drums of it, I mean, you're looking at, for just a small little, thing of Ben Nye stage blood or whatever, you're looking at like $60, $75, right? It's like 1 liter. That's it. right?
Bonkers.
Well, see,
Yeah.
Peter Jackson back in his heyday, like when he did movies like Bad Taste and Meet the Feebles and this one, he did a lot like Stephen Kostansky from Astronaut 6 and a whole bunch of other filmmakers. He did a lot of his own work getting shit ready. So he'd bring in like an effects company or whatever to help him out or some friends, but they'd be like sitting there like making shit in their basement the night before. You know what I mean? Like all together. Like he had his hands dirty for everything that he did.
That's
Proper
awesome.
thing.
Yep.
Yeah, it's the way to do it for sure.
Yeah.
All right, so we've already been talking about the effects work, so we're just, you know what, we're just going to keep jumping forward and talk a little bit more about the effects work, because what makes this movie stand out, not just the effects that we've already talked about, but when this movie kicks off and the zombie attacks full on start instead of just, you know, the zombie characters, you know, causing a ruckus, it quickly turns into one of the largest zombie fest, gore fest fucking movies ever made.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting here watching it, and it was Jacob's first time seeing this movie when I watched this again recently. And I was like, Jacob, you're about to witness why this movie is literally fucking infamous. And he goes, really? And then all of a sudden, the fucking door opens, and he's got the fucking lawnmower strapped to his chest.
Gold.
It was brilliant the way that they reintroduced the character, because and once again, Josh, you hit the nail on the head. Ash type of character right off the bat.
So much.
He shows
There
up.
was even a scene where it shows him covered in blood, and he kind of does that like silhouette that Bruce does. And I swear, if you took that screen and put it up against, Sam Raimi deserves a credit on this film. There's no ifs, ands, or bets about it.
New Zealand Evil Dead.
Yeah.
New Zealand Evil Dead, perfect.
Pretty
description.
much.
Yeah.
New Zealand Evil Dead. So he comes in and he just starts murdering the zombies, like left, right, and center. And it's like Jamie already said, like moth to a fucking flame. The zombies are just attacking him, and it's just into the fucking the lawnmower. But the best part of all of that is that when he's done and he's slipping on the fucking guts and he's running around in circles and he's looking around like, who's next? And there's like nothing there, and it's just bile and blood and bullshit everywhere.
Yeah.
This movie could actually be like a sequel to The Evil Dead. I would be fine. Just give me a 10-second prequel of Ash picking up the Necronomicon when he's going Klaatu Barada necktie, and then poof, a monkey appears. And then Nickel, poof, the little rat monkey appears. And you just show them popping up on the island.
Oh man, yes. It's no longer Sumatran. It's Kandarian rat monkey.
Kandarian, yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, so right from the beginning of this movie, it starts off, like we said, slow. A little bit of interesting effects here and there. The rat monkey's hilarious and really well done for the most part, even though it does need some cleaning up, but it was a low budget New Zealand movie from the, you know, late 80s, early 90s when they made it. And it just turns into this absolute gore fest. So the movie goes through stages.
Yep.
Where it turns from just this could be interesting kind of love story to a little bit of a general horror thriller having to do with a couple of zombies to just a fucking gore fest. And every character that was in this movie was written with purpose, which makes it even more interesting. So the way that I find that Peter Jackson writes is that everything is written with purpose. So in all of the carnage, every time I go back and watch this movie, I notice that every character is not fodder. It's interesting because you don't just see a character for the sake of there's a character splashed on screen. He's got so many hero characters that he makes for these movies that just reappear and reappear. Like during the carnage scenes, they all are doing so much. It must have been pure chaos filming this fucking movie in the way that he had it absolutely perfectly penned.
Can you imagine being the choreographer? Okay, you 18 zombies with your guts that are going to be here. You're going to be over here. You're underneath, but just wiggle your hand like this a little bit. Like...
Continuity, folks!
Right?
There's so many illusions in this movie. So many effects illusions in this movie, right? With the half heads, the teeth are sitting and he's looking around, right? I mean, you've got all those, you know, there could be a body underneath that with his head there, right? Or they do some VFX work or whatever. But man, like when you see arms moving and their fingers are moving properly, but it's severed, you know, it's just an arm through a board. Then they got the whole right? They're not shooting flat.
Evil
Shooting
Dead.
Right, yeah.
All of these, I saw so many effects on this that they used from the Evil Dead.
And you can see when they view in close, and you're like, okay, they're not it's not a wide shot, it's a tight shot. So yeah, you can kind of tell, right?
Well, I mean, the creature effects, like just how they were designed anyway, looked like Evil Dead. Like,
definitely.
Like it was exactly like Evil Dead. And it's funny too because like this movie came out in '92, and they're doing effects that have been used many, many times throughout the '80s. Jurassic Park comes out the next summer. Like, you know what I mean? Like it seems.
Yeah, there's a disconnect there.
Yeah.
One of the greatest CGI movies ever made, because it still holds up with the dinosaurs, comes out a year after one of the bloodiest movies ever made with a claymation rat monkey.
You could tell me this movie came out in '81 and I believe you.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Like they just stuck to their guns, used these amazing practical effects that they know worked. They took Evil Dead and turned that dial all the way.
Yeah.
I think Peter Jackson, he clearly has a love for the '80s horror, without a doubt.
Oh, absolutely. And that was evident when he went on to make movies. Like his first American flick that he ever made was The Frighteners.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was clearly evident in that movie that he had an absolute love for 80s horror because of the way that the characters acted and the zombified effects of the ghosts and shit like this. Like it was a brilliant movie, you know, and it's very underrated, unfortunately, you know. But I mean, this is the kind of movie that when I talk to people about, you know, good classic horror movies, I bring this movie up and I say, you know, this is a Peter Jackson flick, and people are like, fuck off. And I'm like, no, this is what Peter Jackson used to make, like balls to the wall gore fest horror movies that have everything to do with just people being destroyed on camera.
I wish he would go back to that, like not taking anything away from him as a filmmaker. He made the Lord of the Rings trilogy, which for the longest time was the unmakeable movie, and he made it and he did it justice and it was amazing. But I would love to see all his know-how that he got from making all the movies since Dead Alive and do a fucking like a monster movie now. You know what I mean? Like with, you know, his, you know, experience and clout and the fact that he could, you know, put however many millions of dollars into it. And yeah, I want to see him make a new version of this movie.
Unfortunately, in today's era, I don't think he would be able to do it and be as profitable as if he was to be signed on and do something else epic, like something else.
But does he need any more money? Why can't he just fucking make it?
Well, because director's job is to make money for studios, man. Like that's their job. You can always have love projects, but
he needs to do a love project.
Yeah, love project.
He needs to do a love project, and the horror community would embrace it, and it would make lots of money, and everybody would be happy, and then he would be making the money because he didn't have to answer to a fucking studio.
Yeah,
I agree.
He was actually only 29 years old when he filmed this or directed it, wasn't he?
Yeah.
That's not bad. 29 years old.
No.
I mean,
directing an infamous movie like this.
That's still talked about, apparently.
Yeah. Still talked about in the annals of horror.
Yeah.
Nice. So, like the last big effect, and we were kind of touching on it already, is his mother. When she reappears, because it was brilliantly done. Because I remember the first time seeing this movie and seeing all the zombies kind of come back to life and cause the havoc. And I remember at the very end when he's going, "We haven't seen Mother yet." And I'm like, "No, we haven't." Like, it actually, like, I remember literally saying that to myself going, "No," because in the chaos of the scenario, you actually do forget about her temporarily.
Yeah.
I mean, Josh, tell me, am I right? Did you forget about Mom for a minute?
I didn't, but
No,
I can speak of someone who's not as savant as myself.
Be careful with that.
Idiot savants are still savants, right?
It's true. But I do remember forgetting entirely about Mom, and then he mentions it, and I'm like right into it, and I'm like, oh, he's right. And then all of a sudden she appears, and she's just this huge, grotesque, amazing creature. And the best part is the scale effects that they did for her too. Like when she's actually walking up the staircase, it wasn't like CG or weird green screens. Like she's walking up a damn staircase. So I'm thinking to myself, they must have rebuilt that atrium literally just to have her in a suit walk up the staircase and look bigger.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, look at what they did with the baby. The zombie baby. That was somebody in a suit, right? But see, Peter Jackson had to do that exact same effect, but years later in Lord of the Rings, right? For the dwarves and for the hobbits and things like that, right? Yep. So you can see him doing that in this film with that baby.
Yeah,
because
the forced perspective or whatever it's called.
Yeah, they got the baby running away, and it's actually somebody, maybe like a kid in a suit running across and you're like, okay, I see what he's doing. He's trick shotting it, back and forth, and you do catch it where you're like,
there's a couple scenes where you're like, man, this baby ain't the same
There's
size
something off
no
about
more.
this
huge, right? Yeah. So I think that sculpt for that baby suit would have been pretty big, actually, right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, he was doing that same. Maybe that's why they asked if he could help with that.
That's why.
Yeah.
So we've seen this movie where you made a baby.
You want to
make Lord of the Rings? By the way, we love the blood. So then, yes, this movie does have the I don't even want to say the gracious notion of being the only movie to do so, but this is one of the only movies, I can't think of another one where they literally had zombies fuck and make a baby.
Oh,
in like a day. So zombie sperm is like potent or some shit, man.
Don't
because
go
this
on
baby
the
came
internet,
right out.
Adam.
It's
Don't
just
type in zombie porn, Adam.
It's just one. It's just right. Done.
Baby.
Yeah. Like passing the stone.
Oh man. So then we get the baby character, which became infamous in like Fangoria magazine. There were pictures of the baby everywhere, and all kinds of like when people didn't really know anything about this movie, there were images of this baby all around, and it's like I remember looking at it going, I really want to see this movie, but what the fuck is that I'm looking at? It didn't sell the movie for me, but it still looked good. You know what I mean? So it's funny. And it's just this laughing baby, and it was like 3 or 4 different sculpts for this, because it was like the person running around in the suit, there was the dummy, and there was like the dummy that like they were like moving its mouth,
right?
You know what I mean? And it was like laughing and shit, and then there was the one with like it was almost like an animatronic head because it was like blinking and shit.
Right. Yeah.
It reminded me a lot of like a Garbage Pail Kids.
Yeah.
Good call.
Yeah.
Good call. Garbage Pail Kids. As imagined by Peter Jackson. Okay.
You know what? That's what I would expect to find in a Garbage Pail Kids.
Yeah.
Something to look like that.
Yeah, pretty much.
Absolutely. I think you nailed it.
Hello everybody, I am Fabio Frizzi and you are listening to Daycast from the Coast.
So, Josh.
Yes, sir.
Do you have some notes?
Does Josh have notes?
That's what I'm
Oh, God. This movie.
Happy! Okay. Preparing ourselves.
So this was my first viewing of Dead Alive. Watched April 12th, 2020 at 11:21 p.m.
Ooh, you watched it late night.
Quite late. So first note I said was, oh shit, finally, I've seen this cover 1,000 times and never knew what this was actually about. So again, that image of the mouth being torn open with the face looking through, I've seen that so many times on so many shelves at Blockbuster, on horror shelves, whatever, and just never seen the movie. The first thing is a quote that cracked me up. It's only a bloody monkey, for Christ's sakes. I don't know why that was so fucking entertaining to me, but My next note was, man, these guys' pigeon accents are real bad. So for those that don't know, pigeon is pretty much, do you think, Miss Cleo, like the witch doctor, kind of like, yeah. Man, what the fuck is this movie? An Aussie Indiana Jones has a monkey, is being chased by natives through some sort of jungle. What the fuck? Is it a vampire monkey? Wow, great gore right off the bat. And then at this point, I think it's about 10-15 minutes in, all I could think of is, I just want to see the monkey so bad. They kept showing the cage rattling around, and they keep talking about the monkey, and it's monkey, 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 and it's like, I just want to see the monkey. Just show me the monkey. Where's the monkey?
Show me the monkey. He says that regularly, folks.
Yes, all the time. And then at this point, I said, wait, did that just say Peter Jackson? At which point I stopped the movie, looked it up, I was like, huh, it is Peter Jackson. Look at that. I said, why does all the dialogue sound and look like it's being dubbed? Did anyone else notice that?
Yeah, I did. At points.
Was the audio like recorded in a separate studio and then dubbed over?
Maybe.
Or were they just like really bad at capturing audio? I don't know.
They filmed the entire movie, took the audio, changed it slightly, and redubbed it back over, I guess. I don't know.
Seriously?
No, I don't know. Fuck.
Oh,
That's what it seems like.
Seriously?
She was speaking perfect English like 30 seconds ago, and now she's speaking broken English. I think that's a continuity error, because when they first introduced this character, she speaks English better than Adam. And then halfway through, she's just like, no English.
All right, well, there's your first shit on Adam. No, that's not the first, but it's okay. Continue.
He's better English than Adam.
This film has reached maximum cheese at the zoo with a kiss. And then I wrote rat monkey. And then I wrote, Jesus fucking Christ, she slipped on a banana peel. Oh my god, she crushed the little rat monkey's face. What a cock block the mother is. So, is she gonna turn into a vampire monkey? I hope so. I wrote,
Vampire
man,
monkey.
this is one thirsty gypsy lady. She was very thirsty. She wanted this Lionel some bad.
Yeah, she did.
I said, good lord, the mother has pastrami face. I think that would be the theme that Tim was talking about.
Pushing on, yeah.
Yeah. The practical effects in this film are unreal. I wrote, the sheer amount of effects must have had the effects team balls to the wall. Mind you, this is before anything like even remotely close to the finale happens. This is just a couple of effects in, and I'm already thinking, fuck, these guys were busy. I said, another great quote, what, no pudding? And then I wrote, pus squirts into custard. I literally want to vomit.
Amen, bro.
I cringe so bad when and then he takes the spoon and he eats it, and no one says anything. Why does no one say anything?
I love custard.
And then the next great quote: "Your mother ate my dog." It's so fucking cheesy. I said, "Terrible nurse is terrible. The lady's ear just fucking fell off. She's not okay. You're a nurse." And I just wrote, man, the nurse kill scene.
Yep.
I wrote, this is a true gore fest.
And you said that before it really kicks off.
I know. This dynamic is very weird. I don't know which dynamic that was, but whoever it was very weird. He's keeping her in the cellar. I wrote, needle in the nose. Cringed again. What was the fastest? I think Peter Jackson was literally just trying to hit all the cringes.
Yep.
He's like, people don't like stuff getting stoned up their nose. People don't like eating pudding with pus in it.
Yeah, I agree. I thought that.
I was with her last Friday. She was a picture of health. Again. she was falling apart, literally.
The guy just wasn't paying attention.
Yeah. She's an embalming fluid water balloon. Excellent effect.
Yep, on the table.
Yeah. These bunch of Fonzie-looking D-bags drinking in the cemetery, don't know what's gonna hit them. I wrote, oh my fucking god, she ripped off his dick. At which point I stopped and had a moment where I thought, all this happened from a rat monkey. And then another excellent quote, I kick ass for the Lord. At which point he roundhouse kicked one of the zombies in half. And then, in relation to the uncle, that fucker didn't wash his hands after he took a piss. The most fucking gruesome, filthiest thing in the film. He's walking around with pea fingers.
The best was his acting in that scene, though. He's like, he's talking about his urinary tract infection. And he goes, ah!
In the toilet, yeah.
And the look on his face is priceless.
I wrote banging zombies. That's a new one. Zombie babies. That's a new one. This movie might even be too cheesy for me, I said. He's beating the shit out of the kid. Kick to the groin. Okay. So cutting off their heads won't kill them, but poison will? ... I don't think you're thinking this through, Lionel. Cutting off hand with mustache scissors. Good effect. There are so many effects I honestly can't even keep track at this point. Usually I like to mention a couple of my favorites, and it's just boom, one after another after another. I think this is the single most gore-filled movie I've ever seen, and this is a travesty that I've just seen it now.
Seen it. He's seen it now. Sorry.
LOL, running in place on the blood. Excellent. Tooth pulling. Jackson really is trying to hit every single cringe. Oh. I love that she had a moment of second thought when about to kill the baby in the blender. That is until the baby puked pea soup all over her. Then she was down to kill the baby for sure. And I just wrote gnome head.
Oh yes, I love that one.
One of the old pictures has his father feeding a giant kielbasa to a lady. Did anyone else notice that?
Yes.
They're on like a picnic or something, and he's just got like this big honking kielbasa he's feeding her.
And then the next picture is him like on top of her, like mounting her.
Yeah.
But who's taking the pictures?
What's the deal with the lady in the attic? Oh yeah, the dead lady in like the chest. This is so over the top, I just don't even know what to say anymore. And then I made a note, lawnmower instead of chainsaw. This movie truly is Peter Jackson's homage to The Evil Dead. The sheer amount of blood and guts, this film must have costed a fortune. I just wrote, ew. The mum is gross. Ew. Who the fuck escapes out a chimney? This movie is so Evil Dead on crack, it's not even funny. And then my final note was, bullshit happy ending.
Bullshit happy ending. But, I mean, how happy really was it? Like, everybody dies except for him and her, and they're
covered in blood. And...
They seem to be alright with it.
How come everybody's getting infected, but they've got, like, what? Throughout the whole movie, they have, like, hundreds of pounds of blood thrown on them, and it's going in their nose and their eyes and in their mouth, and they're like, yum. I think he even bites the intestine to get down off the ceiling, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does.
Get infected? How is this thing transmitted, man?
Good point. Good point.
I had to vent there. I'm sorry.
Yeah, this movie definitely does not follow one of my core values, which is establish the rules and stick to them. This movie has no rules. A rat monkey bites someone, she becomes some sort of creature, and if they're given crazy hormone-inducing mystery goop, they become Henrietta.
Right.
Yeah, pretty much. Good notes. Tim, do you have any trivia for us?
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Okay, so on its initial release in its home turf of New Zealand, this movie earned more per screen than Batman Returns.
Awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, Batman Returns was kind kind of a big deal everywhere else except for in New Zealand. This movie used 300 liters of fake blood.
300 liters, that's it?
I think we can beat that.
No, actually, 300 liters of fake blood were used in the final scene of the film.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Not a lot of blood.
No. During the lawnmower scene, the movie blood was pumped at 5 gallons per second. That's a lot of fucking blood.
Those poor fucking actors, man.
That's awesome.
Because they're not using high quality blood. That's corn syrup.
Oh, yeah.
As of go ahead.
Probably acrylic paint.
Probably.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
As of 2015, this film has still not been released on DVD in New Zealand.
No.
Which is kind of weird. Uncle Les is hit in the groin 5 separate times during the final act of the film.
Excellent.
Yep.
He gets kicked in the groin by the baby holding a leg, right?
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Lionel's symbol in the tarot deck is a black armored knight. When he first meets Ikita, he tries to buy some black knight licorice.
Okay.
This movie was shot in 11 weeks.
I believe that.
Eli Roth once said that Dead Alive was one of, if not only, film that quenched his bloodlust.
I can identify with that so much. Like I said, I am such a blood and guts gore, and this movie was almost too much.
Go ahead.
No, I think I agree.
In The Adventures of Tintin, also done by Peter Jackson, when Tintin meets Captain Haddock, Haddock calls Snowy, Tintin's dog, a giant rat of Sumera.
Nice.
Peter Jackson out there connecting Tintin to the horrorverse. Attaboy.
Josh is making notes of that. Nice.
What else do I have here? Peter Jackson made a cameo. He was the Undertaker's assistant.
Oh, the bumbling idiot.
Yep. The movie was finished under budget. It had $45,000 remaining. Peter used it to spend the last 2 days of shooting the park scene with Lionel and the baby. And he's gone on to say that that's probably his favorite scene he's ever shot for this movie.
So he had extra money left over, so he filmed an entirely new scene, and it's his favorite scene. Okay.
Yep. And this, I'll end it with this. The movie is said to be the bloodiest film of all time, measured in the amount of film blood used during the production.
Nice.
It doesn't say how much.
No.
It's just mass fucking quantities. That's all that really matters.
I would like to think that Guinness World Record probably has an exact number.
Yeah.
I would think.
But I mean, you also think when they're making it, they're probably not necessarily measuring the amount of blood that they're using.
True. And they're probably not thinking this movie's ever going to be seen by fucking anyone.
Yeah.
Well, they probably have a movie receipt for the actual. They have to break it down, right, for the gallons of blood. So it would definitely have it on record how much they were charged per gallon or per 5 gallon pail, right?
I don't know, man. I think a lot of these, like, quote, low budget, even though this movie's not really low budget, they just kind of wing it. So they tell the effects guy, bring in whatever you got, and then the next day they're going to buy chocolate syrup and corn syrup and fucking acrylic paint and just squirting it on people, right? Like, they can't account for all that.
It probably happens. Yeah, more often than not, for sure.
Yep.
Yeah. But on a big Hollywood film, they want everything, right? Every little, even if it's 25 cents, you hand it in.
Oh, yeah, it's got to be accounted for, definitely.
Right. They want it, and they scrutinize it, right? Yeah.
Man. All right. With that, let's kind of go around and talk everybody's final thoughts on this movie and give your final rating for this movie. So we're going to start off with Aaron.
I'm going to say that this is probably one of my favorite movies of all time. It's definitely up on the list. After I saw the Sumerian Rat Monkey for the first time, I don't know why I did, but I used to call it the Siberian Rat Monkey. I always thought that sounded better. But all in all, this movie has all the camera angles that I really enjoy. When it's right smack up in the actor's face, you can see all the little peach fuzz hairs and the fisheye lenses that they're using. Absolutely enjoy that kind of loose camera work. I did notice this film had a lot of floating camera work, which really wasn't brought in until a few years ago. But this film's got a lot of it, so I think maybe he's a pioneer for that kind of thing as well, right? When it comes to Peter Jackson and things. So I think there's a lot of pioneer stuff in this film. The gore effects, absolutely A1. I love this movie, and yeah, it's going to be on my shelf forever.
Nice. And what would you rate this movie? It's pretty high. I'm thinking an R or an X.
Well, I'm thinking X myself. I love it. Right.
Nice.
Yeah.
So we got a rated X from Aaron. Excellent. Tim.
This movie was love at first sight. Like I love this movie. Like the second that like at first when they're going through all the fucking things and they got the crate and they're going, and I can't remember what he fucking says in his fucking accent, but I was like, okay, I'm invested. And then they cut off his fucking hand, and then they cut off his arm, and then they see the scratch in his head, and then it comes down and cuts to the fucking title screen. I was like, I don't care what happens after this. This is the greatest movie ever filmed. But one of the things that I noticed right off the bat, well, I shouldn't say right off the bat, probably about a half hour, 45 minutes into it, was how much Evil Dead and Sam Raimi's DNA was in this film. And that even got me more jazzed. I didn't see this movie when it first came out. It was quite a bit later. I'd say I probably didn't see it until probably 97. Yeah, I mean, what can I say that hasn't already been said? It's a timeless movie that, even though it was filmed in the early 90s, looks like it could have been filmed in the early 80s. For the majority of the effects work actually still hold up. It's gross. It's funny. It's everything that you could possibly want in a horror movie. I'm not going to rate it as high as Aaron. I'm not going to go with an X, but it's definitely getting a hard R from me. Hard R. Highly, highly recommend this movie. This is like top 10 Josh's shelf that he's got. Like this is up there on my shelf. I love this movie. I love this movie.
Nice. All right, I'll go next. So I share a lot of the same sentiments. This movie, I probably
do. Get some original thoughts.
Oh, shut up,
bastard.
So I probably seen this movie around the same time as what Tim's saying.
Of course he did. Just fucking.
I'm defeated at this point.
That's all Adam does. Steals Tim's good ideas.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I haven't said anything all episode.
It's too bad.
Oh,
go ahead.
man.
I'm sorry.
Okay, fine. This is one of those movies that I never had the ability to see it before a certain time period. So me and David used to go to a place in Lower Sackville that used to rent. It was a little video store that used to rent really obscure movies. This is where I seen a lot of my first trauma films, as well as this movie. We used to rent it was like fucking 10 movies for $10 for like a week. It was like this weird, awesome rental. And it was all VHS at the time, even when DVD was still kicking off. So we'd go, and for like a whole week, we'd just like rent as many as we could. And this was the first time that I remember seeing this movie. After seeing it all in Fangoria and wanting to see it, this was one of those, I don't want to say video nasties, but it was one of the infamous movies that was hard to find. And in a day when licensing and DVD distribution and everything was still kind of new, movies just weren't that easy to come by in a certain way. So it took me a while to get this movie, and when I seen it, I had already seen Peter Jackson's Frighteners before this movie. So I was quite familiar with Peter Jackson's work, and in fact, I think I seen Meet the Feebles before I seen this one too, because it used to play late night on A&E. And it was like one of those movies you'd be up at like 12:30 in the morning, and Meet the Feebles was on fucking Arts and Entertainment Channel. Weird. So, yeah. So when I finally got around to seeing this movie, it was 100% worth every moment of sitting down for the first time. I remember watching this movie, and I don't think my eyes left the screen once. It was just pure love. Everything that was pouring out of this movie was just pure love. For the art, for the craft of making the movie, for the respect of horror, the genre, and the writing. Peter Jackson is a fucking artist that is unparalleled in a lot of ways with the way that he writes the characters in. And not just, their dialogue, which a lot of other artists are probably, better at, like you could say people like Tarantino and stuff, but the way that he writes the characters in and makes them all purposely part of the story. Like I mentioned earlier, like some random zombie that gets created appears like 20 different times doing 20 different things, and he's got purpose, even though he's not like a hero character. And there's so much going on. It takes you a couple of watches of this movie to actually see everything that's going on in the chaos and all the shit that's going on, in the backgrounds. It's an unrequited love to horror is really what this movie is. It's bloody, it's disgusting, it's gory, it's funny, it's got love, it's got everything. Everything that makes this movie wonderful is everything that a horror movie fan should love. What was that?
Zombie sex.
Zombie sex, zombie babies, big tittied zombie characters at the end. It's all there. Everything that you would ever really want. And a big ass big titty zombie character.
Big juicy milkers.
So this movie sits very highly for me too. And in fact, I'm going to say that this movie is probably, I love the Lord of the Rings movies, don't get me wrong, Peter Jackson, but this movie is the prime of your filmmaking for me, because it encompasses what I love the most in movies, which is horror. And your absolute love for making this movie is quite evident. I'm going to have to rate this movie an X.
Ooh, double X.
Josh.
Josh? You going to give it an X, Todd?
You're going to put me on blast like this.
I'm going to put you on blast, buddy.
Hey, if there's any movie that you've ever reviewed that deserves an X rating besides Evil Dead,
this might be it.
You were giddy talking about this movie, Josh. Come on.
I know. So honestly, sum this movie up. I'm honestly not even entirely sure what the fuck I watched. Like, it was just fucking effect after effect after effect with stupid fucking story that made no sense, and then effect after effect after effect, shitty acting that made no sense, effect after effect after effect with fucking horrible, horrible, horrible dialogue that sounded like it was fucking copied and pasted in from a completely different movie, and they could have redubbed something. But just the sheer amount of effects work that went into this fucking movie is insane. Like, I can't even wrap my head around how many people must have been working on this.
Small crew, actually.
So close to an X. It's not even funny. It had the bullshit fucking happy ending at the end, but it had so much Evil Dead that triple X.
Yay!
This movie, it's a travesty. I have not been shown this movie earlier. And The effects work is what does it, because the movie itself is fucking stupid. The story is stupid. The acting is fucking stupid. But it's so stupid it's cheesy, which is gold.
Yeah.
I think they just wrote the effects first, man, and then they just built this little mini story around it, and we're like, okay, there we go. The whole movie's just effects.
But the little monkey, I want to see fucking a National Geographic of the Sumerian rat monkey in its natural habitat.
Tearing off another arm of another monkey.
I didn't even write a note about that.
No, I know.
That was an amazing scene.
It
rips the fucking arm off a little monkey that's in the pin next to it.
It like punches the monkey or something, and when the monkey falls, it grabs the arm and rips it off. It's like, it's amazing.
If any movie that we've reviewed so far earns the XXX, it's the movie with the zombie banging.
That was the best. What I didn't understand, though, and I got to bring this guy up. The guy that he buys, the veterinarian that he buys the tranquilizers from.
Yeah.
And his name is, what is his name?
I don't remember.
What did he say?
The German guy with the fucking monocles.
Yeah.
Slurton. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that was the guy from Human Centipede 2.
Yeah. His name was Heinrich, and he didn't have a backstory because he was in hiding or something. If you listen to what he says, you're like, what?
Yeah.
He was fucking Nazi fucking scientist or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, holy. I'm sitting here going.
And he's just got all this tranquilizer he's just giving out.
And he like grabs the money with the tongs.
Yeah.
And what's he doing to that critter that's on the
something horrible.
Yeah, he's like that's kind of disturbing, right?
This whole fucking movie is a cringe fest. Like, I literally think the effects artist sat down and was like, listen, this is going to be my portfolio. I don't actually care about whatever stupid movie you have written, Peter Jackson. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the best effects work that's ever been done since fucking The Evil Dead 2.
Yeah. The only thing we didn't have is the bamboo shoots or something shoved under the fingernail.
Yeah, fingernails, yeah. That's probably deleted scene. They just couldn't fit it in.
They had it else, man. They had the pus and the pudding and the and the teeth being yanked out.
I'm just gonna put this out there too. The vet, the actor who played the vet, has been on a shit ton of New Zealand movies and stuff that I've seen, but he's actually a credited character in The Lord of the Rings: The Fellowship of the Ring. He plays a character by the name of Ted Sandyman.
You know that buddy just called up Peter. It's like, Peter, come on.
Do you remember that shit I did for you in fucking Dead Alive?
Yeah,
Hook me up.
And apparently he was the voice of the spider in The Desolation of Smaug, The Hobbit.
So they're buddies. They've been in contact.
They've been doing shit, right? Peter's like, you remember that German you did? This is great.
This is the perfect answer to me seeing this cover so many times and being kind of curious as to what it was, and then finally getting to see this film.
Yeah.
I think I enjoy it more than if I had just seen it when I was at my peak of watching horror when I was like 7 years old.
Nice.
I think if I had watched it back then, it would have been too boring, and I wouldn't have got through it. Because there were points.
I have never seen Josh more excited to talk about a movie ever.
There were points where I was bored. It was so much gore. It was like, how did I get to this point where I'm looking on my phone of IMDb when it's just gut fest being splattered out everywhere? It's just like, oh yeah, because this has been going on for 40 minutes with a lawnmower chopping up fucking corpses.
Oh, but it was bloody brilliant, you know it.
Oh my fucking.
Nice.
I don't even know. It's all downhill from here, folks.
Nothing will match this to Josh at this point. So for
not being able to watch it at this point in time in my life, like The Evil Dead, I have a love for because it was always that holy grail of horror movies that I knew was like so bad that it wasn't allowed to watch.
Yeah.
This one was just one that they didn't have in their collection for some reason.
So with all the cheesiness and with all the blood and the guts and the gore, Peter Jackson knocked this one out of the park. We got a XXX and an R rating for this movie. We did good tonight, gentlemen. So with that, we're going to wrap things up here and we're going to call it quits on this episode. So I'm just going to kind of go down the list here and we're going to say thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in. Check us out on YouTube. Like and subscribe to the channel. Check us out on Facebook. We're under the Misunderstood Art Company, where we go live on Monday nights and we send off premieres at the end of the week of these episodes. So check us out and like and subscribe to that as well. We're on all the major podcasting platforms that are out there. We're on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, etc. And I don't know if you know this or not, people, but we're on Patreon. So open up your hearts and your wallets. And check us out on Patreon as well. So until next time, Aaron.
I got a little poem for you. Saddest thing I ever did see was a woodpecker pecking at a plastic tree. He looks at me and friend says he, things aren't as sweet as they used to be.
That was brilliant.
I didn't do that. Shel Silverstein did.
Love it. Thank you. And Tim.
Stay spooky. Wash your hands. Wash your fucking hands.
Save Halloween.
Yeah.
Right?
There you go. Josh.
It's only a bloody monkey, for Christ's sakes.
Poor bugger. All right. Thanks, everybody, again for tuning in. See you next time.
Good night.